Welcome, everyone, to today's show. I'm JJ Flazanes, your host and producer. Thank you for downloading today's episode. Today is a solo show. We're going to be talking about maintaining alignment using the law of attraction. I reached out to the community and asked what is needed, and I appreciate those of you who are an active member of the community, either on the 30-Day Manifestation Challenge page, which is free. And by the way, our next free 30-Day Manifestation Challenge is in September. And if you're not in the group, if you're in the group, you don't have to register. But if you're not in the group and you want to participate, you can go to jjflazanes.com/30day, 30DAY, to register for the next free 30-Day Manifestation Challenge. I also want to give a special shout out to those in the Inner Circle membership because you guys are extremely responsive. And when I ask you what you need, you tell me. And that is this relationship that I have with you. A lot of you who are participating in something that I'm doing, I definitely reach out to ask what you need and try to create and help facilitate what it is that you need, whether it be through me or inviting on certain guests. And for those of you that don't listen often or don't participate, I do still consider you, but I use law of attraction to attract those who are wanting it most, who are engaged in it most, who are communicating, who are showing up and then asking. So if you want to ever send a question, you're welcome to do so via email, and I'm happy to try to address it on the show. So when I reached out to ask this last couple of days, and again, I appreciate those of you who are very responsive because you took no time whatsoever to respond, which helps me create what it is you need. It felt like the overall arching theme was alignment. And there's lots of different questions, and I'm going to try my best to answer them, even though some of them require more digging. If I was working with you one-on-one, I'd ask more questions to get the specific example of what you mean. So I only have to sort of assume certain conditions in order to answer some of these questions. The law of attraction has many principles and ways of understanding it. And there are some very oversimplified points that I think a lot of people won't accept. You want to keep going to conditions. You want to keep justifying a position that you have. And I want to bring forth, again, the simplification of how we can actually look at this to answer some of these questions so that your need to tell a story to justify where you are no longer becomes either a focal point or an excuse. So the first question that I have here is about focusing versus repelling in law of attraction. And law of attraction really is about your point of focus. Because remember, it's a frequency, and you're ultimately deciding what to pay attention to. Now, in law of attraction terms, there's really only two choices. You can focus on what is, or you can focus on what you want. Herein lies, again, a very simple principle. Are you focused on what is, or are you focused on what you want? Because your brain doesn't know the difference about what is. Your senses respond, and your biology responds to your perception. And if your perception is that you're looking at something and therefore perceiving what's going on and making judgments and having an emotional reaction to what you see, you're creating a reality based on what is. If you're focused on what you want, you're tuning yourself to a new level different than what is, and you're literally stubbornly holding the position of I'm waiting to see it happen in this way. Therefore, I am not paying attention or focusing or giving any of my attention on what is because I'm uber focused on what I want. One of the questions from Gina in this list of questions I have here is about how I manifested Doug and about bringing more love and joy. And someone else asked about love and joy, and I'll get to all of your different suggestions in a second. But this is the baseline principle of what I used when I was in my marriage, and it didn't even matter how it ended up, but how I manifested Doug was while I was in a situation that I could have every day decided to complain or focus on what wasn't good. And it wasn't horrible, but it wasn't ideal, and it wasn't what I wanted. And it wasn't what he wanted either. But the point is, I could have focused on the lack. I could have focused on the negative. I could have focused on what I wasn't getting. I could have set my vibration, although part of my vibration was very much in responding to what was going on, what is. I made a point every day, multiple times a day, through journal exercising, through Rampage of Appreciation, through doing it with a friend, through doing it by myself, through certain meditations, hypnosis. I literally exercised focusing on what I want. And I would focus on experiencing, literally emotionally, physically experiencing, right? My biology would shift because I would put myself in a state of imagining that what I wanted was true, that what I wanted was happening. I would put myself in a state of being where I was focusing on what I want and on how that would feel, how that would look, how my body would respond. And I spent a significant amount of time, probably between 20 minutes and an hour to 2 hours a day, not all at the same time, focused forward on what I wanted, which is why my relationship was perfect, because it gave me contrast to have to do this in order for me to get exactly what I wanted in my relationship with Doug. So your conditions only affect your reality when you're focused on the condition and when you're focused on what is. If you take your attention away from what is, and this is what we talked about in the episode that I did last time on how to feel better right now, that's about pivoting. So the pivot would be, without being in denial, for those of you that just have to focus on what is, you have to be a realist and you're looking at what is because you just won't accept that you can actually focus on something that you want and ignore everything else. It's fine. I'm speaking to you right now if that's you. Then you leverage what is right now to get where you want. So if you want to start off by saying, I don't like this, and I'll give you a perfect example. I hate this townhouse. We don't like it at all. We don't like that we have neighbors. We don't like that it's noisy. We don't like that there's trash trucks almost every single day. I don't like the floor. I mean, I could list the things that I don't like about this place. But when I get the hit, or when I'm in the bathroom and that stupid bathroom toilet paper roller thing is making noise and I hate it, the minute that I get that feeling about like the irritation, and again, it's low, it's not a big deal, but it does irritate me a little bit. I say thank you for showing me what I want now. I know that when we buy our house and when we move, I will never have one of those stupid things that makes noise every time you pull toilet paper off of it. So leverage your contrast. Contrast is there to clarify. That's the whole point of contrast, is to clarify. And if all you do is bitch and complain about contrast, and you keep focusing on contrast and what is and how you don't like it. And trust me, I've not mastered this completely either, because I'm living in this current world, really trying hard in a way. And that's another topic we'll talk about here in a second. I was trying. And when you try, you end up putting resistance up. There's a surrender to some of this that I'll talk about in a minute. But your focus, your focal point, what are you reading? What are you watching? What are you talking about? What are you complaining about? What are you researching? That is what is. When you're focused on what is, you get more of what is. That is the frequency you're on, which is one of the reasons why I have let my intuition guide me every time I see some kind of post on Facebook that I have an answer to, but I know that this is not the frequency I want to be in. Somebody asks a question theoretically or combatively about something going on in today's society with whatever, and I want to answer it. And I have to keep reminding myself that this is not a real conversation. We are at different frequencies. And if I get involved in this conversation because I want to win the debate, or I want to prove the truth, or I want to help people awaken, I know my whole body says they aren't looking. This is not what they're doing. They're not really asking. So even though I may want to answer it, I'm lowering myself in a way to the conversation of what is, and that is not where the answer is. The answer is what we want. What is making a clarifying decision right now. Everybody is pretty clear, whether they're aware of it or not consciously, of what they don't want. But the problem is everyone's focused on what they don't want, and they're trying to fight what they don't want by talking about what they don't want. The only way to move forward, which is why we are in a great awakening, which is why we are at the epiphany right now of creating consciousness and allowing ourselves to move into multisensory being, to move into a new level of surrender and trust, to help society, not everybody, move into a new level of consciousness, has to do with where we focus. whether we focus on love and trust or fear. And that's another principle that can be so super simplified to ask yourself at any given point. Alignment is about love. Alignment is about trust. Alignment is about freedom. And if you're in a situation where you feel none of those things, you aren't in alignment. And the only way that we access our intuition is when we're in alignment. And too often I'm hearing people say, I use my intuition, but they're in fear. That is not your intuition. I just taught a 4-week intuition course. We went over this and over this and over this. And for those of you that are interested, because I am going to go over one of the slides today that I went over about how we block our intuition. It is ready for anyone to consume at any point in time. It is jjflizanes.com/intuition. And the difference between, let's say, the astrology class versus the intuition class is intuition is about retraining our brains. It's about changing perception. It's about allowing it new levels and literally changing our physiology and the way our neurological patterning can allow us to receive more. And it's exercise, just like your body exercises to build muscle, to strengthen your both your muscles as well as your endurance and your cardiovascular system. Like the more you do it, the better you get at it. And in exercise, when you plateau, you do new exercises to stimulate new muscle fibers, to create new motor patterns, to innervate and actualize muscle fibers that haven't been used, therefore using more of your body. And it's the same principle with your brain. So the Strengthening Intuition course is a 4-week course that literally helps exercise your brain, your consciousness, and your awareness so that you can keep progressing on allowing and on creating deeper levels of intuition based on a centeredness, based on an alignment, and not out of fear, and being able to recognize the difference. So this first question of focus versus repelling law of attraction is really a conversation about focus versus resistance. And when we're focused on what we don't want, we create resistance because we're not in alignment with that. So if I'm focused on what is, and I'm talking about what is, and I'm trying to fix what is, I'm trying to change what is. And remember, you can't change mass consciousness. You can't change mass consciousness. The way we affect change is by changing ourselves. Abraham often says that one person in alignment is more powerful than millions who are not. So we have a balance happening right now. And I don't know how many of you listened to last week's show or watched last week's show with Gary Zukav, The Seat of the Soul. But one of the things that Gary talked about during that show was what a gift this circumstance is. Now that is a perspective because he sees what he wants to have happen, which is he wants the consciousness, or whether he wants it or not, he's aware that we are evolving. At one point, we were mostly 5 sensory beings, and now we're becoming mostly multi-sensory beings. He's seeing an evolution that pleases him. So he is focused on this evolution. He's not focused on all of the negative things that come out of it. He's focused on the clarification of what is happening and how exciting it is about what's coming. And hopefully you heard that in the conversation. As Gary was speaking, he was focused forward. He was looking at what is coming, and he was excited about what is coming. And he wasn't complaining about what is. Now, I have not mastered this yet, but I am getting better at it. And sometimes all you need to do in terms of listening to your intuition or on resistance and repelling is to surrender and let go. It's a perfect day for me to be recording this because it's Monday, July 6th. And the weekend of July 4th had a lot of negative what is-ness going on. Here in California, the beaches were closed. I wanted to go rollerblading Friday morning and I couldn't find a place to park. So I changed it up and went walking with Doug instead. We went on a drive because that was the only thing we could do. And I got sunburned because I didn't put sunscreen on. And I wasn't upset about that, but it took some energy away from me. We did a lot of really wonderful things, but planetarily, there was some shifts going on. Like there were like 3 or 4 retrogrades going on at the same time. And I was feeling it before I read it, but somebody posted something about being sad or needing to go within or feeling depressed or defeated or something like that. And when I read it, I resonated with it because it's how I was feeling. So what I did was literally unplug. I did nothing. I was starting to watch Netflix and I was like, And then I was trying to find what would feel good. And for most of the day, I couldn't find what would feel good. So I did nothing. I didn't push it. I didn't push against it. I just allowed myself to surrender until it passed. And as I was trying to nap and just laying around and it was kind of hot and I had the air conditioner on, I was with the cats and Doug went grocery shopping and we started a 10-day keto group in the Inner Circle membership. So I was sort of preparing for that, but I wasn't doing because I could feel that I just want to do nothing. I want to lay here like a blob and do nothing. Now, I'll tell you that over the years, especially working for myself, I couldn't do that a lot. I would notice that I would shame myself. Now, it was a Sunday, so less expectation on a Sunday to do any work. But I used to shame myself for doing things like that because I thought that my self-worth was about producing, or my self-worth was about how much money I had, or my self-worth was about how I looked, or about how many people followed me, or how many people followed me on Instagram, or any of that crap. And over the years, through doing these practices, I've more and more come to peace with understanding how to handle a day like that. I was in my body and I noticed that I had no energy. And physically I had some things going on, but I had no energy. So if I go try to compensate for that by overdoing or pushing, if I just listen to what my body wants, if I'm connected to my body, which I am, and if I trust my body, which I do, my body said, chill out. Do nothing. Recharge. So I did that. Now, I was sad or depressed or feeling overwhelmed by society's issues and feeling a lack of freedom, which is, again, my perception. But also I was clicking into, what do I want? I was looking for a thought, and I wasn't looking feverishly. I was just allowing thoughts to come and go. And I was asking myself, well, what would feel good? And at that stage of emotion, there wasn't too much. Now, on one side, many of you aren't confident enough in your trusting ability of your body or of source to allow that to happen. A lot of you resist embodying a true surrender. So what happens is you override it. You override it with nervous energy, or you try to force it. And that is when you are repelling. When you are not honoring where you are. And again, remember, contrast is clarification. So you're going to experience things that are negative in your life. It's how you deal with them and the relationship you have with it that is important for you to pass through it. And when we ignore it, when we resist it, when we suppress it, and that's what I didn't want to do. I noticed that trying to watch a Netflix show was suppressing. I got no joy out of watching a couple new shows. I thought, I'm not interested at all. And my body kept saying, just disconnect. Stop trying to look for something to feel good. Allow your cork to float, as Abraham would say. So I just surrendered to that. And even living with Doug, I mean, he operates from a different place. And sometimes I used to judge myself in the beginning with him. He will work. His default is he'll work. And I didn't want to work, but I was honoring, I don't want to do anything. And there's some true power in that unconditional love and trust of yourself and of source and of where you are to give you emotion and feedback. So the moral of the story is, as I laid there doing nothing, literally doing nothing. After putting the groceries away, I didn't want to work. I tried a few shows, but I just laid there. I thought, well, maybe I'll take a nap because I didn't sleep very well. After I laid there long enough, a thought came into my head about something that would please me. And it was because we were about to do this 10-day keto, and there are two traditions that we have here sometimes in our house. And one is bacon and eggs and avocado on a Sunday. Well, it's brunch actually, but minus the alcohol, which we didn't have any. Sometimes we'll do mimosas or grapefruit mimosas, and sometimes there's carbs. Sometimes I make a quiche, a gluten-free, dairy-free quiche. But we generally do bacon and eggs and avocado. And there's another tradition that's been emerging over the last couple of months, and it's been a paleo chicken pot pie. And I can't tell you how that damn paleo chicken pot pie lights me up. I love it. But it isn't keto friendly because it has tapioca starch in it. And tapioca doesn't really have any fiber. And even though it's paleo, it's still high in carb. And I really wanted to work at reducing my carbohydrates so that I could get into ketosis quickly today. So in my mind, I was going to grill some chicken and put it on a salad. And that bored me. Like the thought of that went, ugh, like that. There was no excitement in that. And I'm such a foodie. So when I thought about it, I thought, I bet you there's a keto chicken pot pie recipe. So that idea, that thought, like that gave me energy. I went, oh my gosh, I don't want to have a boring meal, my last meal before I go keto for 10 days. I want to have an exciting meal, but I also want to do it in a way that serves my goals. And so I thought, I'm going to look up a keto chicken pot pie. And that thought excited me. So what did I do? I went downstairs and I made a keto chicken pot pie. And then Doug and I watched Hamilton. And it was on Disney Plus. I've seen a lot of people on Facebook talk about it. And between Hamilton and a keto chicken pot pie, all of a sudden my mood shifted and I was feeling better. And then I had an amazing sleep and I used the Sacred Acoustics. I used the full hour-long Alpha track, which is about deep, meditative, dreamless sleep, although I know that I did have some dreams. And next thing you know, I woke up and felt great. So sometimes, just like when a battery loses all its energy, yet you try to use it in a device and it keeps shutting down because you have to recharge it. So what I did yesterday was recharge. Did it feel good? No. It's about feeling comfortable in the uncomfortableness. It's about allowing and accepting wherever you are so that your cork can float and you can get back to being in alignment with the wellness that is without pushing. So Courtney, in terms of repelling, we only repel law of attraction when we're trying to either control circumstances or control ourselves. And we're not allowing ourselves to be where we are and we're not surrendering. And remember, another one of these very simple principles that law of attraction and just life has is that unconditional love means unconditional. And if you really sit with that and ask yourselves, do I practice unconditional love? Unconditional love for myself? Unconditional love in the world? Or am I looking to control others and circumstances in order for me to feel better? Now, we all know what the answer is. It's the second. Most of us do not practice unconditional love. Now, I think that what I was doing yesterday, even though it didn't feel like love, was unconditional love. I'm going to allow myself to do what my body wants me to do, which is nothing. I'm going to suspend judgment. I'm going to release efforting. I'm going to not shame myself. I'm going to release expectation. And I'm just going to allow myself. Allow. But the only way we know what to allow is connecting to who we are and trusting that if where we are in the moment, if our energy is low for whatever reason, and I'm not blaming astrology for my mood, but maybe prior to that, I've been too wrapped up in what is, which has created resistance and disconnected me from who I really am. And taking the beat of accepting and allowing, taking the beat of not judging myself, no negative mind chatter, no producing. That's another thing that I've noticed recently with a lot of my clients, a lot of you who listen, is that we judge ourselves based on being productive. That's not being. That's doing. And that's efforting. How many of you can sit in your bodies in the present moment, not thinking about the future, not thinking about the past, and just be? That is where we want to practice. Now, we're not where are we focused? We're focused in this red hot moment, which means we're not telling a story about what's going on right now outside of who we are and what we're doing, to allow ourselves the ability to shift, allow ourselves the ability to release resistance and to surrender. And then when our bodies feel a little bit like, oh, I'm naturally raising my energy. Like when I finally could identify a thought, which was the pie, the keto chicken pot pie, when I finally identified a thought that felt good, I acted on it. But I wasn't going to act on every thought I had prior to that because it didn't feel good. And this is another oversimplification principle that most of you and people reject because you think, well, it can't be that simple. Part of the reason why people reject it and you think it can't be that simple is because most of the time you don't know what feels good because we're too concerned with efforting or producing or being of value to somebody else or looking for external validation from somebody else. The only alignment that is of concern to you, that is effective overall for attracting what you want, is your alignment with who you are. And I'm talking about the God source part of you, not the physical human body in this time-space reality. I'm talking about the fact that you are an extension of source. You are source. You are God. You are timeless. You are an eternal being. Your soul, your energy is eternal. We are multi-sensory beings coming in and out of consciousness. We forget that, and that's a game changer. How many of you feel better already? When you broaden your perspective, when we stop looking at what is and deciding how we feel based on the perception, and I'm using the word perception more than usual because we're finishing up the biology of belief with Dr. Bruce Lipton. I'm interviewing him tomorrow, and I'm so excited. I can't wait. I don't know exactly when it'll be published, hopefully next week, because we're going to cut to the chase on some of this conversation, and I can't wait to have him explain on a scientific level, for those of you that are on the fence, how all the things that I'm talking about are true. And from a scientific perspective, and how law of attraction is science and quantum physics is law of attraction. So I'm going to move on and talk about, so Gina asked, she wanted me to talk about the law of attraction. And I asked in, any particular topic or part or use. And Gina said, yes, drawing in more abundance, career and love relationship. I've been listening to a lot of Abraham and I'm understanding that we need to focus on the reality that we want to have, not the lack of it. This is tricky when you are not seeing it. But then I think Abraham is saying focus on something good to keep raising your vibration so that you will be a match to all the things you have asked for that are in your vortex. I think I just answered that, Gina. Here's the thing. Yes, you can look for something good. Milking the good stuff. Rampage of appreciation. List of appreciation and positive aspects. Those are all things you could be doing every day to tune yourself to the best of what is right now. So we have the what is that we like, and we have the what is that we don't like. And when we focus on the what is that we do like every day, we literally attract more of the things that we do like. We create a positive momentum by milking the good stuff about all the things that we do like about what is. The problem is when you're looking at what is and you don't like it, and then you're keeping score of all the things that you don't like, and you're keeping score against all the things that you want that you don't have, your awareness to that is what causes resistance and slows you down. When you're looking into your environment for evidence of what you want that you don't see, you literally resist and block and keep yourself in a lower frequency, so you're not going to get it. So we can start with acknowledging the things that you do like about what is. And then the other trick, I already talked about it, is putting yourself in a point of focus about what it is that you want, but not from a headspace. Not from an idea-only space. And those of you that are air signs, listen up. The problem is, and if you have a moon in air sign, a problem is sometimes you're so in your head, this is where your anxiety is created because you're swirling and swirling and swirling in your head and you're never connecting it to your body, which is where most of your subconscious is, and it will tell you what feels good and what doesn't feel good. It will tell you what is off and what is not off. And when it comes to physical diseases, physical pains, physical ailments, I was telling, I don't remember where it was, if it was in the Inner Circle membership group coaching or in the Inner Circle mastermind, but imagine that your body is trying to connect with your brain to give you a signal or information. And it says, hey, you're out of alignment and you have back pain. Hey, you're out of alignment, you have stomach issues. Hey, you're out of alignment, you're acidic and now you're having issues with digestion and it's coming in the form of gas and bloating and skin conditions. And consider that like a small knock on the door, like, okay? So small little knock, body saying, hey, pay attention to me. I'm letting you know you're out of alignment. And then you ignore it, because either you're in your head and you're not in your body, so you can't tell, what's going on, or you're so focused and ingrained in what's going on that you're ignoring it. And so the knock gets louder. The knock gets louder, and now you're starting to get sick, or you're overwhelmed and you have a headache, or you're out of alignment so much and now your emotions are trying to tell you that because you're depressed, or again, you're overwhelmed or anxious and you have a migraine, or you're in bed all day because of depression. Okay, that's a bigger knock, but yet you ignore it. Okay, so what happens next? Well, if you ignore that and we're not addressing it and we're not correcting it and you're not getting into alignment, then the next thing that happens is something that's probably going to take you down. Something like cancer or a car accident or a sickness that you were trying to avoid that takes you out, a pain so profound that you can't move. And you're going to say, well, how did this happen? Because you ignored all the signs prior to that. But you didn't know to look for the signs because you weren't connected to your body because you were in your head. You were trying to be productive. You were overwhelmed. You didn't give yourself any space. You never let yourself be because you were so busy doing that you weren't connected. You weren't conscious. You weren't looking for indications of what is going on in my body to let me know if I am in or out of alignment. If it's been happening for a while, it's going to show up in your body. Now, your emotions, everyone, are your first indicators of if you're in or out of alignment. And if you don't listen to your emotions, that's when the snowball gets bigger, rolling down the hill, and it becomes physical. And then when it's in the physical body and you numb it with drugs, cortisone shots, pain pills. I got somebody who has all these different reactions to things, and the doctors put her on things that would help to numb all of those things happening. So we didn't actually find what was wrong. We just numbed the response. And if you take the drugs away, then those responses are going to come back because we haven't actually got to the root of why it's there in the first place. We just keep drugging it, numbing it, and suppressing it. If you're suppressing, which is why I'm not a fan of drugs. I'm not a fan of cortisone shots. I'm not a fan of ibuprofen and Aleve. I'm not a fan of pain pills unless you've just had surgery or something, or the momentum is so big that you need something external to stop it. This is why we talk about addiction a lot, because do you know what your addictions are? I'll give you a hint as to what most people are now. If you're not aware of it, you just look around and you can see at least one addiction that many people have. First, it's control. How many of you are so upset about what other people are doing? Well, I'm one of them. I definitely can give myself a little bit of that. It's not a lot. I don't really care what you do. I care what you tell me to do. But that's a form of control because I can't stop that either. I can't control what you're going to say to me or that you want to control me. But a lot of people are literally making themselves sick, suppressing their immunity at every turn because they're so upset about what is their circumstance and how they're trying to control it. If you were not aware of your addiction that's control before this, take a good look at how you've responded. And if you have responded the way I've just explained, one of your addictive tendencies is to control. So to use my example of what happened yesterday, I wasn't trying to control. I was trying to release control. Now, my old self would have said, go be productive, go do something. Doug's working. You should go work. Why don't you want to work? Well, there's something you could be doing, or fight this feeling by trying to do something happy, put on some happy music. Like I was literally in such a place that I was like, I'm going to allow myself to naturally bob up to the surface here until a thought I have feels good. And the first thought that felt good was the keto chicken pot pie. But that's because I was literally giving myself permission to be attuned to myself. One of the course ideas, and I thank those of you that always respond to this, part of the journey and the law of attraction, if you will, for me, the excitement of this community is that I have literally built everything based on your needs and my needs and desires, but I'm not trying to create something I think you need and shove it down your throat. I'm literally taking based on the people that I'm working with, the feedback that I'm getting, the comments that I get, the people in the groups. I'm feeling into what is necessary. What's the next step for many of you to get to the next level of law of attraction, the next level of surrender and trust, the next level of getting rid of or moving beyond your current upper limits. And that's another phrase I wanted to bring up because I think it's so powerful. When Gay Hendricks and I did the show on the Big Leap, and even just me revisiting the Big Leap the first time or the second time, was that the Big Leap and upper limiting gave a framework for identifying exactly how much joy, love, success, and abundance you allow yourself to have. See, law of attraction oversimplifies to say you're in alignment or out of alignment. Awesome. Cool. It also says if you focus on what you want or focus on something that feels good, that you'll be in vibrational alignment with it. That is true, but what Gay Hendricks did with the Big Leap and with upper limiting is identify where our thermometers are set. So now we can see the reason why I can't make $5 million and hold on to it, not me personally, but just anybody, is because I don't believe I'm worth it. I have one of these 4 belief systems going on that keep my thermometer set at I can only make $50,000 a year. And as long as I upper limit, I don't take action, I don't trust myself, I make excuses based on fear, I'm addicted to my story that keeps me stuck because I'm too unwilling to have courage or a new level of self-love for myself to get me to the next level. The work of the Big Leap and upper limiting gives us a framework to now see more clearly what that thermometer is for you. You know, I've taken a lot of courses over the years and been in lots of masterminds and been in lots of programs, and one in particular, the Millionaire Mind. I remember the person who was running at the time talking about how he, made millions and he lost it. Then he made millions and he lost it. And he made millions and he lost it. And I think back to that time, and I think part of it, what he was trying to sell, which he was doing very successfully, is like there's a mindset to it. There's a way in which you behave, the way you save money or that you pay yourself first, or just the way that you invest money that can help you get over that. And then the rest of the course, the rest of the focus was about the underlying belief systems. And all I need to do right now is take that information about upper limits and apply it to the situation and say, well, the reason why you couldn't keep the money that you made is because you sabotaged yourself because you didn't believe you deserved it. It makes it that simple. So when you're at a place where you're not attracting the next level of what you want, it's most likely because you're upper limiting and you're telling yourself subconsciously that you don't deserve it. And you're staying in some kind of pattern that keeps you practicing these habits and not allowing yourself to move to the next level of love, success, abundance, and joy. But it's you that controls that temperature. And it's you that has to notice when you're upper limiting. And it's you that has to notice what you do to upper limit. So for me, the places where I would have stayed in this negative energy longer is me shaming myself, me telling myself that I need to do something or be productive or get something done today, or there are other people who are raising children and doing this, and what am I doing? Doing nothing. That would have been very upper limiting. But the form of self-love and compassion that I offered myself was how I got through it rather quickly. Even though literally almost the entire day, not quite the entire day, but like most of the day was spent not in alignment. I had to allow myself to float up towards the surface of the water naturally until I could find a thought that felt good. And once I found a thought that felt good, I could have judged that too. I could have said, are you kidding me? Really? Food? But I allowed it to be. I didn't judge it because I have a certain level of compassion and self-love, and I'm going to say confidence. So what I think is coming down the pipe in terms of courses that I'm going to offer, and I've already asked this question, I've already had 10 people say yes, is to do a course on cultivating confidence, because that's going to move the needle on your ability to receive. The ability to receive is where you open up to intuition. It's where you get to the next level of accepting and attracting what you want, and more importantly, keeping it. We've got another client who's in the podcast mastermind, and she's reading The Big Leap because I'm making all of them do it too. If you're in my Inner Circle mastermind, you've already read it and done the worksheets, and ongoingly, the next year people, the new group of people coming in or the new people entering the already existing group will do the same thing. It will be a requirement to have a conversation around knowing and looking at your upper limits and knowing what actions and behaviors take you out, that stop you, that sabotage you from getting to that next level. And sometimes for some of you, it's literally the conversation of you're focused on what is. And if you're looking at what is and you don't like what is, you're never getting out of that cycle because you're going to constantly be upset about what you think that you're giving your power away and saying, I can't be happy until what is changes. But hopefully what you understand now that you didn't as well 45 minutes ago is that you can't change what is to change how you feel, We have to first change how we feel and what we're perceiving and what we want and our own alignment and our own frequency for us to be able to see things differently. So Gina, I think that should answer a lot of the things that you asked in terms of abundance, career, and love relationship. And, when you said it's tricky because you're not seeing it, know that you're keeping score. And even the act of keeping score says, I don't trust this process. And there isn't enough for me to be happy about. And I can't be happy until XYZ changes. So I would recommend, Gina, and everyone else listening who this resonates with, do your appreciation list every night before bed about the things that actually happened in your life that you appreciate. And on the other side of the page, do what I'm looking forward to experiencing. But again, here's the trick. You don't just write it down as a remote list. Like every time you write it, every time you write what I'm looking forward to, you imagine it being real. Again, your body and biology don't know the difference between what is real and what is not real because all of us experience reality on a different frequency. How many times do you look at something and someone else is looking at it and you have a completely different response? All the time. So what's the difference? The difference is our perception and then the meaning and emotion that we apply to that perception. We experience emotions based on what judgments and what things we think we are lacking based on our perception. So we can change our perception and you can change your beliefs. But when we're looking at what is and telling a story about what is, and you don't like what is, you are stuck. So next question was about boundaries. And I'm the one that put this out there. Shauna agreed with me and said, definitely boundaries. Boundaries is probably going to have to be another conversation as we're nearing a 45-minute mark on today's episode. So I'll just say that boundaries are indicators of when you are out of balance. And I'm trying to give you an example. So what I've noticed recently, and sometimes, again, we can do one of two things. When we're out of balance, we can beat ourselves up for being out of balance. We can get mad at the circumstances that we think created our out of balance. And when we do that, again, we're focusing on what is and the conditions like that got us to where we are right now. We don't like it. And as long as that's the conversation, then that's emotionally and vibrationally where we stay. But if you can leverage that and say, wow, I'm super tired and I'm overwhelmed and I have a headache and I'm overworked, which is what I did a little bit on Sunday. How do I not do that again? What's the value of this? What's the benefit? What's the lesson from this contrast? And for me recently, I've noticed with my schedule, while I love my new morning schedule that I have, and I actually even have another boundary that got created recently with some clients that I've had for a long, long time. And they're on a certain number of sessions a month. And I set it up that way. So that way when they traveled or I traveled, that like sometimes we did less and sometimes we did more, like it would all work itself out. And it was just the same payment plan every single month. Well, now that they're not traveling, they've been doing more and I haven't been charging them for it. And every time I would check in with, do I say something? I thought, no, we're probably still evening it out and it's fine. They've been clients for a long time and it wasn't the right time. And then something clicked about a week ago and I said, nope, not doing that anymore. I'm going to tell them that they only signed up for 5 and we're either going to have to increase the package or just do 5. And when I had the conversation with them, one said, well, did you want to renegotiate? I said, no, I don't need to renegotiate. You just decide if you want to add, we're doing 6 to 8 sessions a month and you're paying for 5. So either we change the package to 6 or we just do 5, which means I'll get Fridays off. So, which is great. I'm happy with either choice. I don't care, but I was finally ready to say, okay, this is enough. Enough is enough. Same thing with my schedule in terms of putting people on my schedule. There are a certain number of client sessions I can have a day and be fresh and attuned. And when I go over that, I'm tired. I'm suppressing yawning. I'm burnt out and I need a break. I am not honoring my energy by doing too many in a row. And now that I've been doing it, I'm clear of that and I can change that. And I feel so good about that because it's honoring my own energy needs. Putting long breaks in between a couple clients at a time. And I just decided last week that I can't have a session after 4 p.m. 4 p.m. Pacific time, one-on-one is my last session because it zonks me. I'm toast by 5 p.m. Pacific time. Now, on the days that I teach a class or the days that I have the Inner Circle membership group coaching calls, those are usually at 5 p.m. Pacific time. But I also take at least 2 to 3 hours before that off to take a nap, to do the sacred acoustics. I do not book myself up until the very last moment because I need to replenish my energy. And for those of you that are more right-brained, more emotional, more empathic, you're affected by other people's energies, or you give a lot of energy to what it is that you're doing, which I do, you need to replenish. If you're a healer, you can't do 5 sessions back to back. It'll zap you. And you definitely can't be doing anything for free, by the way, everybody, because if you're doing it for free, then there is a lack of energy exchange. So that's why, for some of you, I've recommended in certain business coaching situations that while doing a certain consult or something every so often for free is fine, if you do things for free and you wonder why you're so tired, you might be thinking, well, maybe this isn't the right job for me or the right profession or the right application of my skills and services because it leaves me really tired. Well, if you're not making any money, there's no energetic exchange. There's nobody's giving energy into you. You're just giving energy out. So there has to be an energy exchange. And that's also a point in your relationships, in your business, and in your life. So I'm going to jump to a question that Gail had this morning. She's in the Inner Circle membership and the mastermind. And Gail mentioned about, work, like the balance of being in the work, being a single mom, having a side business, and maintaining balance and alignment. Well, Gail and everybody else listening, you have to create space for your own alignment. And again, if you're in the momentum of doing, then you're probably not in alignment most of the time because you're in response to somebody else's desires. You're not starting from a place of I-centered, me-centered, and what do I need to stay in alignment? And then literally walking into those situations. If we're putting out fires for other people all the time, if our focus is on other people all the time, then we are literally giving our power away to say that until I help that person, company, whatever, feel better, I can't rest. But the analogy to that is whether it be money or coffee, like you can't give anybody from an empty cup. You have to give to yourself first. You can't give from an empty cup. You have to fill your own cup first to have anything of value to give anybody else. And I know, I know, Gail, you exercise in the mornings and you do a good job of taking care of yourself and doing the you time. What I would say that I know for you and others that they don't do, see, exercise is doing something. So you're probably telling yourself, check that off the list. I feel productive. I'm exercising, which by the way, most people benefit from exercising because it is a positive giving of energy to yourself. But where are you giving yourself the emotional outlet? Where are you giving yourself the pleasure outlet? For many of you, and many of you that I work with, you don't have enough joy in your life. Now, I will tell you that I have a new level of joy since my new relationship, but even when I didn't, I made sure that I sought things out that brought me joy. So when I was out of alignment yesterday, laying on the bed, and every thought that I had didn't bring me joy, and the first thought that brought me joy, I acted on it. And I went downstairs and I looked at the recipes for a keto chicken pot pie, and there you go. And it helped change my mood. But it's because I honed in on, I created space for the awareness of what the thought was that did increase my frequency. When we're so busy, you're not stopping to be in alignment and to figure out what thought gets you there. And then half the time when some of you do, you don't act on it because you feel like it's selfish. You feel like you can't afford to. You feel like you shouldn't or you don't deserve to. And again, here's where the upper limiting comes into play. When you put your alignment, how you feel, what you focus on, and protecting your energies first, everything else will fall in line. And boundaries come when we recognize that we've stepped over a place where we throw ourselves out of alignment by overgiving. That's what I was doing with not charging. I mean, again, and I don't do this often, but I mean, it was because of circumstances that I thought I'm not going to charge them right now. It didn't feel right, blah, blah, blah. And I just didn't do it. But it pushed me beyond a boundary at some point. And when it did, I was aware of it. And when I had the thought, it felt good. It felt timely. And it was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to ask for what I want. I'm going to tell them what the rules are. And it's now completely in alignment with who I am on every level. And it feels good. And it didn't feel good prior to that. So being in alignment is what creates knowing what to do, what impulse to follow, because you're in your intuition. So boundaries probably deserves a whole nother show, quite honestly, but I'm going to quickly go through the rest of these. So Emily asks about maybe something about relationships endings and embracing new beginnings. Emily, I would say everything I've already said. Focus on the pieces of what the relationship ending gave you, why it had to happen, what appreciation you can have for it. If it wasn't for my last relationship, I wouldn't have Doug. It's because of the contrast of my relationship. I made no mistake. I was not a minute too soon or too late. All the things had to come into exact alignment at the right and perfect time for me to have my story unfold the way that it did. If it wasn't for my last relationship, you and I would not be having this conversation because I wouldn't have never started a podcast. It's because of the podcast and my intention to the podcast and using law of attraction in my relationship and me knowing and trusting with beyond a shadow of a doubt because of how much I wanted it. I knew I was going to get what I wanted. I didn't know how. I thought it was going to be through my ex. You've heard this a million times, but I knew I was going to get it. I had no evidence that I was going to get it, but I knew I was going to get it. Why? Because I wanted it so badly. I wanted nothing more than that. I wanted a intimate, deep, connected relationship over anything else, more than money, more than security. And because I wanted it so badly and I believed and I knew, I allowed it to be and I acted on that belief. For those of you that don't have that kind of belief, this is where working on what are your limiting beliefs and why are they there and how do we change them? And again, person to person, there's going to be different ways to address them. I use so many different tools with individuals to do this. Just to give you a few, EFT, the Imago, creating your Imago exercise, using the needs and feelings list and the 3 steps to effective communication from nonviolent communication. I mean, there are several ways to go about this. But where law of attraction shows you what you believe is based on what you keep attracting. So if you're in a positive space, or you think you are, but you keep attracting something over and over again, the question doesn't become, what is it that I'm doing wrong? The question is, what is it that you believe that keeps this active? And when you get to what you believe, which is, I might not believe I'm worthy. Some of you want to change your bodies. You want to lose weight. You want to feel better about yourselves, but yet you keep undermining yourself by saying, I want to lose weight and I want to care about my body, but I actually hate my body. Well, those two frequencies don't align, which means you're not going to have long-term success with being healthy or releasing weight and keeping it off if all you do is tell yourself negative things about your body. This is fear. So if you want to love your body, you have to love your body. You're not going to get there from fear. You're not going to get there from anger and abuse. That is fear. They are not of the same frequency. And as painful as it is for some of you, this is also an upper limit. You do not believe you're worthy. Therefore, all the efforts you do are literally sabotaging you in the long run because you're saying it's based on conditional and your body wants to say, screw you. Until you love me unconditionally, I'm not changing for you. Okay, moving on because I want to wrap up the show. Charlie talked about releasing whatever emotional stuff causes back pain. Well, Charlie, back pain is repressed anger. And I know you're a Gemini and that's an air sign and I don't know your moon. But most likely, again, there's a disconnect and there's a relationship with anger that maybe you're not allowing yourself to express or be honest with. Again, a lot of air signs, a lot of you can ignore feelings because you just you're just residing in your head. And this is where connecting to your body and noticing what your body's telling you. So your body's telling you you're suppressing something and it's most likely anger related. And what's under anger though is fear, is a very deep fear. But sometimes a lot of people, and Charlie, you're a very nice, good energy kind of guy. Maybe for you, you won't allow yourself to feel angry because maybe someone told you being angry is not right, or it's a bad emotion, or you haven't given yourself permission to have healthy outlet for anger. There's more to that, but in terms of releasing it, there's several different ways. And the first one I would tell you to do is get Dr. Sarno's book, Healing Back Pain. Okay, and start there. Nikki, want to talk about divine feminine and masculine. We're not going to do that on today's show, but thank you, Nikki, for that suggestion. And in terms of finding emotional blockages, so Nikki, I know you took the Strengthening Intuition course, and one of the things that's in there, I gave you the chakra clearing, the chakra balancing audio that's in there, and you could use that. You could also go through any one of the meditations that we did in the Strengthening Intuition and see where you are disconnected from a part of your body and what chakra that is. And we, on that last class, we did all the chakra in terms of all the things that it relates to. And that would be a place to start with identifying where you are not sensing energy flowing through a part of your body. That most likely means that one of your chakras are blocked. And there are several ways that you can overcome that. Again, EFT, meditation, the chakra clearing audio that we have in the program. Hopefully that helps. Let me quickly just run down some of the list of what blocks intuition, and this is directly out of the Strengthening Intuition course. Again, for those of you that would like to purchase it who did not participate in the live class, you're welcome to buy it at any time. You can go to jjflizanes.com/intuition. So what blocks intuition quickly, and I go through this much more in depth in the course: negative mind chatter, stress, doubt, fear of loss and change, anger, perfectionism, addiction, inability to receive love, stuck in our heads, disconnected from body, and focusing on why. I could have done the entire show today on that slide, but it already exists. It's in the course, and I'm definitely going to recommend that you get it because I thought it was great. So I believe that it's a really great practice that everyone can be doing to help move the needle on an awareness of our bodies, awareness of our emotions, and then leveraging that in Law of Attraction by choosing our point of focus, surrendering and allowing, and being able to tell the difference between intuition, which again, your intuition comes when you're in receiving mode, which means you're feeling trust, joy, peace, and love. If you are feeling any negative emotion and you get a hit, you are not getting your intuition. With the exception of if you're having an instinct because your reptilian brain notices it wants to put you in fight or flight because, a car is coming and going to crash into you, or someone is walking behind you and you think they're approaching you. Which, by the way, instinct requires no consciousness. Instinct is a pre-program in your body, and it is not intuitive at all. It is literally an instinct. There's a difference. And hopefully tomorrow on our show with Dr. Bruce Lipton, you will hear a little bit more about that. So hopefully today's show was beneficial for everybody. Thank you again for participating by adding something to the mix in terms of a question or content. I would love to know from this show moving on what I might have touched upon that you feel we could go deeper with. And is it boundaries? I feel like it's boundaries. If it's something else, though, please write to me, jj@jjflizanes.com, and let me know. So in 3 to 4 weeks from now, when I do the next solo show, I will know exactly what you're interested in hearing and what helps you. Again, if you want to keep this conversation going, we have a very, very supportive, active group of people over in the Inner Circle membership, jjflizanes.com/inner circle. It's only $9.99 a month with a 7-day free trial. And it has a whole new podcast with over 20 episodes already that you can listen to right now. So I would love to invite those of you that consider yourselves JJ fans or super fans of any one of these shows. Please join the Inner Circle. We'd love to have you. It's less than a cup of coffee once a week, right? Because that at $4 a pop, if you go to Starbucks or something, ends up being $16 or more. So for $9.99 a month, less than Audible, and you get lots more and a community and a group coaching call. So by the way, this week on Saturday, July 11th, is our next group coaching call that's live at 9 a.m. Pacific time, noon Eastern time. It is recorded, but it's the way for you to come and see other people who are in our community. So thank you so much, regardless of whatever level you play at with me and our community. And I appreciate your feedback. And I wish you nothing but alignment, peace, joy, and freedom.